I'm Allison Edwards. I'm a design researcher at Monash University, and we partnered with Wesley Imms in the University of Melbourne on this ILETC project. So I was the lead designer that created a bunch of the workshops and the materials that we used to get some of the information and the insights and start learning from teachers what their journey was like transitioning into these innovative learning spaces. The ILETC project that Wes started to introduce earlier today brought together the expertise of leading researchers in education and learning environments, partner organizations in education and learning environment design, and in technology. So what we were really looking at in this project, like Wes mentioned earlier, is how to kind of accelerate the adoption of, the use of, and the catalyze better teaching and learning in these new spaces that were being introduced to teachers. So we started to use a bit of this process called design thinking. So can I have a show of hands? How many of you have heard the term design thinking? It should be everybody. Yes. So design thinking is almost ubiquitous. It's used in so many different contexts, and every time it's used, it looks a little bit different depending upon who's facilitating it, what it's supposed to be accomplishing. So for this project, we were using this idea of design thinking throughout the entire project, like Wes talked about, where we were empathizing with the teachers' needs, starting to define what they were looking for, coming up with ideas and prototyping and testing throughout this project. Like what Wes mentioned earlier, this was one of the things that led us to shift from this idea that we could create this toolbox of resources for teachers to magically adapt to their learning environments, and instead needed to create customizable individual pathways. But during this beginning of the process, we were also using design thinking in a more visual and experiential way. So we were using workshops that used visual, experiential, some fun, playful, creative methods to kind of draw out information from the teachers. So instead of just sending out surveys where they're ranking how they rate their learning space, and instead of just trying to get all the quantifiable statistics that Wes was really interested, where we came in was finding out more about the teachers' journeys and the stories, some of the information that they might not think to share, and also seeing what this looked like for them in practice. So at the very beginning of this part of the process, we used these visible and experiential workshops as research. So I would like you all to try this. You all have pens or markers at your table. So could I ask you to just hold up a pen or a marker, just vertically up and down in the air? So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to look up at the ceiling, and you're just going to trace a clockwise circle. Pretend you're circling one of these lights. You're just going to trace a clockwise circle, so like 12 to 3 to 6 to 9. And now what I want you to do is slowly bring it down in front of you, but keep your elbow below your wrist. So slowly bring it down, try to keep your elbow below your wrist so that you're actually looking down at the pen now. And I'd like you to notice what direction is that pen going. I heard a couple of ahs. Somebody saw it. Okay, so cheap trick, slight gimmick, but it illustrates this bit of a shift in perception that if I told you that depending upon how you look at a pen spinning in the air, it can totally change direction, it's not as effective as if you actually do something. So following with this sort of learning approach, what we're going to be doing today and what I've been asked to do is to show one of the many tools that we have been designing, creating, refining, and using in the context of finding out more about how teachers are adapting to their innovative learning spaces.